Hello and welcome back. If you're new here, this is Ladi. I make detailed tutorials on bag making, and on other days I make videos that has to do with my bag business and a little bit of my life in general. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how I made this luxury leather Maxi Tote bag from start to finish. You all know that this bag has been in trend lately and many of us have a few questions about it. So do well to leave your questions in the comment section because I'm ready to answer them to the best of my knowledge, and I'm ready to share my ideas with you. And this video is going to be showing you full tutorial, detailed tutorials from the materials to cutting to measurements to the tools and everything I used. Mind you, I used the blackhead machine, so yeah, I'm going to be showing you how everything worked for me. So do well to like and share. Let's watch. All right, so this is my interface. This one is called a cardboard, and it has different names. If you know the different names, you can leave it down in the comment section, please. It has different names, but we call it cardboard. Then this is one type. You can also use a Mako, but we call this cardboard. For the measurements, it's going to be 33 inches. That's what I used, but you can use the measurement of your choice depending on how wide you want the bag to be. So I used 33 by 17 inches. 33 inches for the length, 17 inches for the width. So with the full body length being 33 inches, we're going to split it into three parts: the front, the base, which is the bottom, and the back. The front will be 13.5 inches, the base, which is the bottom, will be 6 inches, and the back will be 13.5 inches as well. That's what we're going to do. As you can see, the sum of it is 33 inches. Then you're going to rule a straight line. Rule a straight line on where you have measured. As you can see here, we have the front, the base, and the back of this. Alright, now to the width of the bag. The upper part of the bag. We have 17 inches as the width of the bag, right, if you remember. So we're going to reduce the upper part by 1 inch on each side. Measure out 1 inch on each side of the upper part of the bag. 1 inch, as you can see on the video. Measure out 1 inch on the upper part alone of the 13.5 inches. So you're going to take your ruler and measure it, rule it down, so the upper part of the bag will remain 15 inches, while the lower part of the bag will be the normal measurement that it has always been. So you're going to rule out the line from there and then cut it out. So now the lower part of it is wider than the upper part. That's what we are trying to make now. So you're going to take your scissors and cut through that line. Cut down. So this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like right now. We have the front, the back, and the base of our main body, of the interface of our main body panel. Now you can see the measurements: 13.5, 6 inches for the base, which is the bottom, 13.5 for the front and the back, the length of the front and the back. And then for the width of up is 15 inches for the width of the upper part, and then for the lower part, the width is 17 inches. You can see the difference of 2 inches because we cut out 1 inch on each side of. Now to the gusset of the bag. For the gusset of the bag, we are using a shape board. Correct me if I'm wrong. And our measurement is going to be 13.5 by 7 inches. 13.5 for the length, which if you remember is the length of the body of the bag, and then 7 inches for the width of it. We're going to find out why it's 7 inches as we go on in the tutorial. So having measured this, you're going to rule it out just like you see, and then you're going to measure out 0.5 inches just like you see there, just like I already measured out 0.5 inches, and then you will go up and measure out 1 inch. Listen attentively because I'm going to be explaining everything and showing you how it's going to be. So this is 0.5 inches down and 1 inch up, as you can see. So you're going to take your ruler and then rule your line from there, from the 0.5 inch to the 1 inch. That is the main measurement. But since it's a gusset, it has to, the gusset of the bag needs to like go inside of the bag a little bit. If you have observed how structured bags look, the size of the bag, it feels like it's going inside the bag a little bit. Some people use more measurements, but this is the measurement I'm using. So now the 1 inch that is up there, you're going to split it into 2. So it's going to be half an inch there. You can see the way I split it into, that's half an inch. You're going to measure it out, and then you're going to take your ruler, that half an inch, to the very end of the 7 inches at the down there, the 7-inch width of it. You're going to measure it down, and then the up, you're going to take that half inch, rule the line there. Now that's the allowance part of it that we use, that makes the bag to go inside, that makes the gusset to go inside the bag. I don't know how else to explain it verbally, but while you are seeing the video, you're going to understand as time goes by. So downwards, we're going to rule down 0.5 inches. At that point where 0.5 inches, you're going to measure it down 0.5 inch. Yes, by 0.5 inch. You can see that's an angle, 0.5 inch, half an inch, and then you're going to rule a straight line there. So we're going to cut it out. You can see what it looks like. If you're finding it difficult understanding it, you might want to just take the video back by maybe 10 or 20 seconds back and re-listen to it, and you might just understand it. So watch how I cut it and where I cut it from. Now I'm using a shape board because I'm using a blackhead machine, and blackhead machine is not really good for thick or heavy things to sew. If you have blackhead machine, you understand what I'm saying. If your material is too thick, you're going to have a hard time on your machine. So we have our gusset measured and cut out already, and we're going to cut out 2 of it. Now you're going to place your interface on your leather, sketch it out, measure your allowance in, and cut out your leather. that simple. Place your interface on the leather, on your desired leather. I recommend that if you're using a blackhead machine and you're adding interface like fiberboard, cardboard, Mako, pick a leather that is not thick, that is not too thick. Don't get a thick leather because we're using a machine that is not heavy duty. The machine is not heavy duty, meaning it's not very good for heavy, thick materials. So you're going to pick leathers that are not that thick but are quality, you know what I'm saying. So you're going to place your interface on the leather, measure, sketch it, draw the measurement on the leather, add your desired seam allowance and cut out. I use 1 inch all round it, but if you know you're confident and you're not going to make that much mistake, you can use 0.5, half inch. You can use half inch. So now it's very important to cut your interface. Cut out your interface first before cutting your leather. Some people make that mistake of cutting the leather first and then cutting the interface afterwards. When I say interface, I mean all this cardboard and fiber. You already know that. It is not okay. It is not a problem if you are an expert, if you know what you are doing. But if you're not so sure, cut your interface first. Examine it. Look at the outcome of it. Fold it into the way you want the bag to look. Observe it, make sure it is what you have pictured in your head, it is what you have imagined it to be. And then when you are okay with what you see, you can place it on the leather, sketch it out, and cut it out. That way, it reduces your risk of making mistake. I hope you understand. So we are done cutting the body of the bag. We are going to move on to cutting the strap and handles of the bag. So you can see lines. I rolled out 3 straight lines on this leather, and these are the the handles and the strap. That's 3. So the measurement is 50 inches by 3.5. The length is 50 inches by 3.5. How we are going to use all these measurements will be seen in the video as you continue watching. After that, we're going to cut the base of the bag. Yes, there's another base of the bag. Don't get confused. As you keep watching, you're going to see everything. I'm explaining everything to the best of my knowledge. I'm sharing with you all the knowledge that I have. I promise you it's not that confusing. The measurement is 7 inches by 18 inches. I'm going to write that down. You're going to see it. This base that we are cutting and the 3 straps that we have cut will not have lining. However, the main body that we cut and the gusset that we cut will have lining. So the measurement you used for the main body of the leather of those gussets and main body, that's the measurement you're going to use to cut out your lining. So the next thing I'm going to be cutting out is the outer pocket, and it's 14 inches by 11.5 inches. That's the measurement I used for this particular one that I'm cutting. As you see, 14 inches by 11.5 inches. This as well has lining, so you will cut the lining for this with the same measurement. And then the base which we cut out initially has a shipboard. We use shipboard to cut it as well. So now we're moving to the strap of the bag. We use 3.5, remember. So you're going to fold it into half like this, just as you're seeing. You're going to fold it like this to have the right measurement for it. And you can use super glue. This is super glue I use to hold it down, to fasten it together so that it will stay put, so that you can sew on it. Just like this, you fold it like this and use your super glue to hold it. So you can see it's held that way, and then we sew it down. So mind you, this thing that I've sewn is just one. The remaining two I haven't sewn it yet, and you're going to see how I'm going to do that, because it has a pattern. So the rest of the two straps that I have not sewn but I have glued it together to stay put, I'm going to put it on this. So if the width of the upper part of the bag is 15 inches and that of the bottom is 17 inches, you're going to mark out at the upper part, which is 15 inches, you're going to mark out 5 inches, 5 inches, 5 inches. And then the 5 inches in the middle, you take it all the way down. 5 inches at the middle, all the way down. And then that's where this strap is going to be placed, just like you see in the video. So that's the strap. Now I've marked out 13.5 inches on the strap on each side. You can see where I mark it out, 13.5, 13.5 on that side. That's where you're going to place on the bag and sew it straight. So now what we are going to do is you're going to take your strap to the machine, measure from the beginning of the strap 13.5 inches, that's what I marked there, and then go to where the 13.5 inches is and start sewing from there. That start, you can take it up a bit, that's where the 13.5 inches starts from. Sew it all the way down and stop at the end of the strap where the other 13.5 starts. You stop there. You don't sew all the way down to the end of the strap. As you can see, I hope you're understanding. We're only sewing the part that we are not sewing on the bag. That's what we are sewing right now. The part where you hold to your shoulder, that's the part we are sewing on the machine right now. The part which will be attached to the bag, the remaining 13.5, we'll sew it on the bag. So after you have sewn it, for the strap sewing to be neat, this is what you're going to do. As you can see on the screen, you're going to tie the threads together. It's very simple. Look at the good part of the bag, drag out the thread to the other side that may not be looking the neatest, drag it out and tie it neatly one or twice and cut the extra allowance. So that part is just going to be at the back. It's not going to be where it's visible. So we have sewn that part. The 13.5 inches length that we have not sewn, you're going to place it on the bag. The remaining 13.5 inches that we have not sewn, you place it on the bag. You can use your glue to hold it to the bag, and then you start sewing on it. That means we are continuing from where we stopped in the sewing of the strap. I hope you understand what I'm explaining. Now you might be wondering why I'm using machine oil. It's very easy. If you're a bag maker, you should already know. Machine oil just helps. Somehow it helps to soften it, makes it easier to sew on the machine. You guys might be wondering why the angles are not so good. It's because I don't have a tripod yet. Once I get a tripod, you're going to see the best angles, the best views of what I'm sewing, so that you can get a clearer picture and a clearer understanding. So bear with me while I explain to the best of my knowledge. Next, we are going to work on the outer pocket of the bag. And remember our measurement was 14 by 11 and a half. And remember we said we cut a lining of the same measurement. So I've used pin to hold the lining to the bag, and I want to make a pocket, a zipper pocket for this. So the length of the zipper pocket is going to be 7.5. The zip is going to be 7.5 wide, the zipper pocket, and then ½ inch long. So what I'm going to do is just sew on this drawing, this 7.5 that I have sketched out. So I'm going to sew on it, as you can see. 7.5 by ½ inch. We sew on it, and when we are done sewing on it, we're going to cut open the middle of this. It's a very simple thing. So let me just take my biro and draw it out for you to understand better. So it's just like Y shape, and it's in the middle we're drawing it like that, the Y shape cut out, and we're going to cut out exactly what I have drawn on it. Cut it out, let it open. We're basically cutting it out to take the lining, to bring out the lining through this opening that we have cut out. The whole lining that is there, you're going to bring it out through this opening that we have cut out. But before we bring it out, I'm going to take my super glue and glue up the leather so that I'm going to have a neat finishing on it. This is not really necessary. This gluing aspect is not really necessary, but because I'm trying to make my work come out neat, I just want to put it. But if you're an expert and you know what you're doing, it is not really necessary. Having done this, you're going to put your hand through that opening and draw your leather out. This is what it's going to look like when you're done. And then you're going to take your zip. My zipper cloth is about 8 inches long. You're going to take it, fix the zip lock and the zip cloth together. And when you're done fixing it, place this zip that you have under this. Alright, so we're going to put the zip under just like you see and do a top stitch on it. We're going to top stitch all the way round it. Carefully and patiently. You guys, my angles aren't the best right now, but bear with me. So next step is to fold the bag into two from the inside out, which is the leather, the leather inside, the lining outside. Fold the bag into two from the inside out and do a top stitch around the bag, around this little purse, just like you see. By the end of the sewing, you get a clearer understanding. If you don't understand it yet, just hold on and see the outcome of the sewing. So we're going to turn it inside out. This is what it looks like. So having turned it inside out this way, we're going to do a top stitch again on only the width of the purse. The length of the purse is going to be left. We're going to do a top stitch on the width of the bag, which is up and down of this purse, meant to say up and down of the purse. Do a top stitch up, and then we go to the lower part of the bag. And do a top stitch there. We would have sewn it round, but because leathers are not good for sewing multiple times on it, we're going to leave the two sides of the purse for when we are attaching it to the main body of the bag. So keep watching to see how it turns out. This is how we're going to leave this for now, and then we are going to move to the base of the bag. The base, remember we cut the base of the bag 7 inches by 18 inches, and then we cut out a shape board of the base of the bag, which, if you ask me, I would say is not so necessary. It is not that important, but I prefer doing it. Do what works for you. Do what your machine can't sew. The measurement of the shape board that is inside this base that you're seeing, the measurement is 6 inches by 17 inches. I use the main measurement of the main base of the bag for the shape board that is inside this base that you see, and then I put the gum and gum it and covered it just like you see. And I have base buttons that I put there. These are accessories which are not compulsory, but it's very good if you have it and you put it. So we have done this, and the next step is to sew it on the main body of the bag. Sew it where the base is. Remember, the base is 6 inches by 17 inches. 17 inches. Simply place the base on it and sew it just like you have seen. I have sewn mine, and that's what it came out looking like. So over to the outer pocket. We're going to be left with measurements of width 11 inches, and the length of this outer pocket yours might be 6 to 6.5, depending on how much seam allowance you use. Now we're going to place it on the middle there. Check the measurements of find out the middle of the bag, and then the midpoint of the bag and the midpoint of that purse. Place it there right in the middle and sew the two sides together. Now we are going to add the next step that we are going to do is gumming the interface to the body of the bag. Now all that pocket and strap was necessary, because if you put this interface to the bag, if you attach it to the bag first before sewing these things to the body of the bag, it might be difficult for you to sew it on your machine, except you have a heavy duty machine. Now we don't have that, so this is the best process, this is the best procedure to follow. So what we are doing now is putting gum on all of them, gumming them together. Gum all the interface to the leather. This is the gusset. Gum the interface, which is a chipboard, to the leather, and then we take the main body and then our fiber board or cardboard, as we called it earlier, and attach them together with our gum. At this point, if you have a roller, it's very necessary you use it to make the gum, the leather and the interface align, so that we don't have any bumps or any openings, so that it gums properly. You can use your roller or just use your hand to press on it so that it attaches properly. Because of how thick my fiber board is and the strength of my machine, I peeled off the edges of my fiber board and then I attached gum. I peeled it off just a little at the edge of the fiber board round to make it a bit thinner so that my machine can work with it. And then I put my gum around all of the main body panel and lay down the edges. Now our Maxi Tote bag is finally coming together. The next thing we would want to work on is the inner part of the bag, which is the lining for the inside, the pocket of the inside, and the facing of the inside of the bag. Now, first of all, we're going to cut out 15.5 inches by 3.25, or should I say 3.2? That's 3.5 inches of half inches in two places, and then we're going to cut out 11.7 and 2.5 inches, 2.5 inches, 11 inches plus half inch and quarter inch. I don't know how to explain that better. 4 pieces of that, and then the 15 inches, 15.5 inches, 2 pieces of that. Now for the 11.7 inches by 2.5 inches, we're going to take it, measure out 0.5 inches on the two sides, measure out half inches out on the two sides, and then take your zip. The length of your zip should be 18 inches thereabouts, and this is what it should look like. And then from that half inch that you've measured, you place your zip there. You can use glue to hold it, and then put your zip in between just like you see in the video, and then you sew on it. You sew it. You can see it's not, it doesn't start from the beginning of the leather. It starts from somewhere close to the beginning, which is not the beginning, just 0.5 inches apart. And then you sew it at the end as well. You do not end it at the end of the bag. Watch me as I sew it on the machine. So if you look closely at the beginning of the sewing and at the end of the sewing, I did not end it. I did not start from the beginning. I left 0.5 inch and then 0.5 inch at the end. So at that point, I'm going to sew it down. Sew it down on both sides. You can see what it looks like. And then I turn it inside out. And then I'll do a top stitch on it. This is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. So the second 15.5 inches by 3.25 inch, you're going to take it, notch it at the middle of both of them, place it on each other. At the middle where you have notched, place it there and sew on it. So this is what it looks like. So what I'm holding in my hand is called the facing, and we're trying to attach it to sew it to the lining. Facing is already 3 inches long, and then the lining we're going to measure out 10.5. Since that, remember the front and back of the bag is 13.5, and we use that same measurement to measure out the lining. So the top of in the 13.5, we're going to leave out 10.5, and then the remaining top, which is 3 inches, is useless practically. We don't need that because the 3 inches is already what we use to make the facing, which is the leather that we just showed earlier. This leather that you are seeing is already 3 inches. So instead of using a full leather to cover inside, we're going to use this facing. For this part, this excess lining you're seeing, we're going to cut it out, and then we're going to use this facing, sew it just like you see it. There you can see the measurement of the lining now is now 10.5. 10.5 plus 3 inches, which is the facing, is 13.5. So it goes back to the same measurement that is meant to be. I don't know if you understood my explanation, but right now we are done with the facing, joining the facing to the lining, and then we've inserted zipper pockets. We've installed a zipper pocket. Like I mentioned earlier, I made a video on how to make zipper pockets. It's a short video and you can go and check it. And then we've added the strap handle for the gusset. Now the next thing is to gum all the parts together, the lining to the main body. Now the gusset, we're applying gum to the gusset, and then we'll join it to the lining of the gusset, and then the full body, apply gum and join it to the lining of the full body. If there's any part you don't understand, you can leave it in the comment section. In the next bag I'm making, I might just take out time to video out the part that you don't understand, explain it in another way, and make a video about it and post it. So we have gummed all the necessary parts together, the lining to the full body. The lining has its pockets, zipper pockets, and the second pocket, which is not a zipper pocket. That is something that you do you choose to do is your choice. You can decide to add those pockets, you can decide not to add those pockets. They are also called compartments. And we've also joined the lining of the gusset together with the gusset. We've gum it together. And then you can see this top part I did not trim off. We've trimmed out the excess. You can see the top part I did not trim off on the gusset. I'm going to fold it in, open it, fold it in, and do a top stitch on that part. So you will see it in a bit. Going to fold it in that way, go to the machine, sew, do a top stitch. I've already folded it in, but I'm going to take it to the machine and do a top stitch so that it doesn't pull off. As you can see, it's already folded in. Do a top stitch so that it doesn't peel off. Now if you have a strong machine and you know your machine can carry it, it will be more advisable to use a thicker lining. Some people use sewed, some people use other things. You can use a thicker lining, cotton, something thicker, but I'm just using this light lining because I do not want my machine to do too much. So what's left is to attach the gusset to the body of the bag. You can use your glue to fasten it together, and then you take it to your machine and sew it all the way around. I wasn't able to show all that process because there was no space in my phone and I ran out of time. So if you look at the top of the bag as well, where I'm showing you right now, you're going to need to do a top stitch on it. Even after you've gummed it and it has gummed properly, you need to do a top stitch on it. And be careful not to do double stitch on it. If not, you might end up cutting your strap. If you can, do your top stitch without sewing on the strap. You can take the strap out of there and then do a top stitch on the top of the bag. But that's what I did for mine, and that was what worked for me. You can do what works for you. You can see how our bag is looking right now. So the final part of the bag is to sew the gusset to the bag. So this is how it's going to look by the time that you sew it together. I have used super glue to hold it together, so it's looking this way. And then the next thing I'm going to do is to take it to my machine and sew it. If you have stayed with me up to this point, I must say you did a very good job. Thank you for watching. I had fun making this bag. The adventure was fun. The stress was fun. I loved the process of everything. I learned from it. I learned new procedures, and in my next video I will be showing how I'm going to make my next bag, maybe the corrections I'm going to make and all that. So if you watch this video to this point, do well to like and subscribe for more videos to come. I really appreciate you. Share it on your WhatsApp. If you have a WhatsApp group, or if you're in a WhatsApp group for bag makers, kindly share it to those people that those people that make bags, so that they can see it as well and learn from it, or leave their comments as well and know what it is and what is not about this bag. So if you have made this bag before, please take a picture of it and leave it in the comment section so that we can see it as well. This bag was not so easy to make. I must confess, it was not so easy to make, but at the end of the day, we did it. You did it, I did it. Well done, and thank you for watching. Thank you for staying tuned. Follow me on my TikTok as well. Follow me on all socials. Ladybag on TikTok, a Ladybag on Instagram and Facebook. like and subscribe. I wish you the best in your bag making, and I hope we grow and we learn more as we continue being consistent in our work. May God bless our handwork. Bye and see you next time.